What if I told you that every AI answer you've ever trusted was only half the story? I'm not talking about AI making things up, although that happens too. I'm talking about something more subtle. Every AI has a blind spot. And the only way to find it is to ask another one. Here's a situation I see all the time. Someone asks ChatGPT a complex business question, maybe something about pricing strategy, or how to handle a difficult contract clause, or whether to expand into a new market. ChatGPT gives them a confident, well-written answer. It sounds authoritative. It has bullet points. It probably even has a little summary at the end. So they act on it. And sometimes that works out fine. But sometimes it doesn't. And the scary part is, they have no way of knowing which situation they're in, because they only asked one source. This is the exact same mistake people used to make before the internet. You'd ask one person, get one opinion, and assume it was the truth. We all know that's a bad idea now. So why do we accept it from AI? The fix is simple, and once you start doing it you'll never go back. Instead of asking one AI and trusting the answer, you ask four. ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and Grok. You look at all four responses side by side. Where they agree, you can feel more confident. Where they disagree, you know exactly where to dig deeper. I call this cross-referencing, and it's one of the most underused techniques in the entire AI toolkit. It takes maybe 5 extra minutes. And it will save you from some genuinely bad decisions. To understand why this works, you need to know something about how these models are built. ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and Grok were all trained on different data, using different techniques, by different teams with different priorities. They each have different strengths. They each have different weaknesses. And critically, they each hallucinate differently. Hallucination is the polite word for when an AI confidently states something that isn't true. Every major AI does this. It's not a bug they haven't fixed yet, it's a fundamental property of how these systems work. But here's the key insight, they don't all hallucinate the same things. What one gets wrong, another often gets right. So when you see 3 out of 4 AIs agree on something and one is the outlier, you know exactly where to focus your skepticism. Let me show you this with a real example. I'm going to ask all 4 AIs the same complex business question. The kind of question a professional might actually use AI to help answer. Here's the question. We're a small e-commerce business doing about $500,000 in annual revenue. Should we hire a full-time marketing person or continue outsourcing to a freelance agency? This is a genuinely hard question. There's no single right answer. It depends on a bunch of factors. Which means it's exactly the kind of question where different AIs will give different advice, and where comparing those answers is genuinely useful. Here's what each AI said. ChatGPT led with the cost angle. It told me that at $500,000 revenue, a full-time marketing hire typically costs $60,000 to $80,000 in salary plus benefits, which is a significant overhead commitment. It recommended staying with a freelancer unless revenue crossed $750,000. It was practical and numbers-focused. Gemini took a completely different angle. It focused on strategic control, the idea that if marketing is a core growth lever for your business, you want that knowledge in-house where it can compound over time. It actually recommended hiring sooner rather than later, even at this revenue level, if growth was the priority. Claude was the most nuanced. It said the right answer depends on 3 factors: how much of your growth is marketing dependent, whether you can find a generalist who can cover your specific channels, and how much management overhead you currently have. It didn't give me a direct recommendation, it gave me a decision framework. And Grok? Grok pointed out something the other 3 missed entirely, that the freelance agency model has a conflict of interest built in. Agencies are incentivized to keep you dependent on them. A full-time hire is incentivized to build systems that make the business less dependent on any single person. Look at what just happened. We have 4 intelligent systems, all given the same question, and they gave us 4 meaningfully different answers. ChatGPT and Gemini directly contradicted each other on timing. Claude refused to give a direct answer at all. And Grok introduced a consideration nobody else mentioned. If you had only asked ChatGPT, you'd have a clean, confident answer, and you'd have no idea that Gemini would disagree, or that you were missing the conflict of interest angle entirely. That's the single source problem in action. The disagreements are actually the most valuable part of this exercise. They're a map of complexity. They're showing you exactly where the question gets hard. So how do you actually build the best answer? You combine. You take what's useful from each response and discard what's thin or contradictory without investigation. In this case, I'd combine like this. Use ChatGPT's cost framework as a baseline. The numbers are a useful starting point. Adopt Claude's 3-factor decision framework to structure the actual decision. Take Grok's conflict of interest insight seriously. It's a real dynamic that changes the analysis. And use Gemini's strategic framing as a reminder that this isn't purely a cost decision, it's a growth decision. The answer I end up with is richer, more honest about the trade-offs, and far less likely to lead me wrong than any single response would have been. And it took me about 15 minutes total, including reading all 4 answers. You don't need to do this for every question. If you're asking AI to help you draft an email or summarize a document, one answer is fine. But there are specific situations where cross-referencing is non-negotiable. Any research that will inform a real business decision. Anything involving numbers, regulations, or legal interpretations. Strategic questions about hiring, pricing, positioning, or market entry. Anything where being wrong has a meaningful cost. Those are the situations where 5 extra minutes comparing 4 AIs is genuinely worth it. Not because AIs are unreliable, they're incredibly useful. But because they're most useful when you use them like sources, not authorities. Try it this week. Pick one real question you'd normally just dump into ChatGPT. Ask it in all 4: ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and Grok. Spend 10 minutes comparing the answers. I guarantee you'll find at least one disagreement that changes how you think about the answer. If this was useful, subscribe. I put out a new AI workflow video every week aimed at exactly this kind of practical, non-technical stuff. And drop a comment with the question you tested and what you found. I genuinely read them all.